Hello, loose enthusiasts alike, and people all around the world. Look, there's so many commander videos out there, and they all have some good tips. And there's a lot of good commanders that are fun to watch on YouTube and stuff. They all have something, and you can all learn something from all of them, right? Well, if you're new to the game, or you're kind of just getting into it, or you're like around like level like 50 to 70 or something like that, and you're starting to get a grasp on it, you're thinking that you know what you're doing. I promise you that there's always more to learn, and there's always something you learn every single day and you pop on there. So let's talk about some how to let loose commander tips, y'all. But first, I wanted to introduce myself in case you don't know me. My name's Green Tea, and I am 234 and playing on Xbox, okay? So, am I the highest? No. But is there something that I could tell you? Maybe. I think like everybody has something to say, right? And I think that you probably can learn something from everybody. So, this video is intended to fill in the gaps in knowledge that you didn't think that you didn't know, right? And I need you to listen to me and to internalize what I'm saying, because it's just going to help you out in the long run with these tips that I'm boiling down just for you, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's get going. The first thing I want to say, the first truth that you need to know, number one, guys, there's only so much that you can do as the command, right? There's games where I haven't lifted a finger. My team has just absolutely decimated the opponents. There's other games where I'm literally running all around and stressing out like crazy, and I still end up losing. Your sphere of influence is only so far, right? People are like, oh, this commander, blah, blah, blah. I think that in general, your team is going to put too much emphasis on like the commander. Now, although the commander can influence things very, he has his role where he does have some type of influence, so like maybe more than like a typical soldier or whatever, but in the end of the day, if your team isn't doing what they need to do, you're not going to win. And there's no amount of hustle that you can do that, is going to change that. So, number one, tip as a commander is just come to grips with maybe it's not all on you, right? Which might go without saying, but what I'm telling you is even the best commander, somebody hyper vigilant, somebody that's literally doing everything that they possibly can, sometimes that's not enough. So in that case, it would be more in your interest rather than like trying to do more, trying to establish rapport more with your squad, basically. All right, so let's get into it a little bit here. Let's talk about stuff that ain't in typical videos, Yale. Okay. The number one tip, guys. Not number two, I guess. Number two tip for you intermediate guys. You need to get your blue zone garrisons down. Blue zone. From my collective experience, it's like you're yanking a kappa point in reference to like a warfare or something. Yanking a kappa point without your blue zones up. I like to typically get like 2 or 3 up, but there's no point of your team becoming overextended and stuff without getting those blue lines up. So let's say fresh map, fresh start, like, whoa, where should I be putting these first initial Garys and stuff? 100%, 10 times out of 10, you got to get your blue lines up. And you need to tell your squad leads, hey, look, dogs, got to get my freaking blue lines up. If you don't get those blue lines up, the chances of you capping on a enemy hardpoint ain't very good. There's been times in games and instances where you're spawning on, maybe red zones and stuff. But as you know, those red zone Garys get locked out pretty easily within like a few 100 yards or whatever. So they're not practical. They're good for spreading out and stuff, but the initial force and stuff needs to come from those blue lines. And you over time, if you're newer, you will see that this will speak for itself over time. You'll see that the games where you have these blue lines up are the games where you'll tend to win. Another tip with the blue lines that I want to throw in there is when you throw those blue lines up, you need to hug the edge initially, or that's how I typically do it. Which may not work against a stacked, experienced team. They maybe get taken out, but there's a chance that your team will do well with that. And if that's the case, you need to have taken that chance, because the time of running across the map and everything, it adds up. Like each blueberry, if it's they have a 30-second longer run than they usually would, if you had just gotten that garrison closer, that's however many minutes of infantry time, right? I don't know that calculation, but it's it's a real metric that we got to consider, guys. Accounting for those extra seconds, which is could be splitting hairs. Is it splitting hairs? I don't know, but it's you want to be the best. I would say that most of the time, with any kind of professional athlete or professional whatever, the top tier of people are probably really meticulous, we'll say, okay? So, number 2 tip, get those blue line garrisons up. Hug the line. A little last thing I'll say about it is, let's say that they're patrolling your shallow blue line, they're taking those blue line garrisons out frequently. Think about staggering them a little bit, right? Don't always drop in the same place again. You can't do that. You do need your blue lines up, but you may have to pull back a little bit, but that's just kind of a trial and error. Each map is a little different, as I'm sure you're aware. Each solution is always a different answer, right? So if you were hard at the bottom of the sector, you're dropping supplies, those blue lines are getting taken out, try to just stagger them, pull them back a couple. Maybe their recon or their infantry ain't, they're not going as deep or whatever. Okay? And that's just it. So, without a doubt, you have your priorities as the commander, right? And you've understood the fundamentals a little bit, and you're trying to really hone in on your wheelhouse, the way that you operate and the way that you run things. So, the first emphasis that we'll place is getting these blue line garrisons down. And if I haven't beaten that to death yet, I think I just did. If the enemy just keeps taking them down and stuff, you need your squad leads to help you out. There's only so much you can do. There's only so many supplies you can drop, and that's it. And if they're not helping you, you're probably going to lose. Probably. There's only so much you can do. All right, let's move on, so we don't just get harped up on one thing here, guys. Okay, unsolicited drops. Okay, so you got to just be on top of your supply drops. You're meticulous. You are slamming those drops. You are not waiting for people to put you up pings. You are, if there's not supplies where a potential Gary could be that could help you to take a point or better position, then you need to be dropping that. And until that happens, you're not going to be trying to get on Artie. You're not going to be going anywhere or doing anything like that, right? Until you get that set up. Now, it's always great when you have a squad or squad lead or recon that's putting these up for you, that's helping you out with stuff. But it's not all on you. In reality, it really shouldn't. But I think like the player base, at least like for like Xbox platform lately, it's you can't really count on anybody, right? You can't count on it. So I think that's just we'll say that's a solid 2. Just unsolicited drops. Just drop the supplies. Don't be stingy with the supplies. Any corner that you could need a gear, you need to put it down, because a lot of times, consider the fact that there's a lot of players on your team that just frequently, they just won't ask, right? They're just quiet people. They're just not going to ask you, okay? So if you can make those drops, put them in a key position, it increases your odds of somebody stepping up and helping you out. Okay. Now in a clan situation, it'd be a little different. Hopefully, like they would get it done, right? So another thing that I do as a caveat to this is I put down a ton of map markers, like place garrison mark, and then I remind my squads and my team that you need to be doing that, right? I put a lot of markers down, right? And some people, maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but it helps clear up any kind of ambiguity or whatnot. Cool. All right, moving on. So, I mean, one thing I just want to also add in, I guess, I think I already said something like this, but you're nothing without your team, right? And I pretty much already said that. But okay, how about this? The more you utilize your team, the more you will win, right? And what does that mean? You're utilizing your recon team. So the more you utilize your recon team, and what does that mean? That means, well, that's kind of a caveat into my another tip of mine is have your recon go take down their nodes, right? That's huge. It's so important, and I can't emphasize that enough. And if it's not in other videos, it totally should be. If you cut their supply chain on a competent command and whatever, they won't have tanks, they won't have drops, they won't have reinforce. It's bad. That's bad to do. So somewhat mid-game point, I would make sure that your recon is on comms and that they can go back there and do it. That will be a game changer. There's plenty of games where I played where that's been the deciding factor, I wholeheartedly believe. Where it's like, and I've messaged the commander at the end and like, hey, we were neck and neck. Do you know why I won? It's because my guys went and dismantled your nodes. Which, if you don't have a recon team on comms, then it's not good. It just won't happen, right? But it just goes into like, it's a team game, right? Thanks for watching, guys. It means a lot. Okay, so another thing that I try to do is I try to make it as easy as possible for my engineers to build me nodes, right? It's exhausting begging, people to build your nodes and all that. But, I mean, I've gone as far as I've, took the supply truck and built a special little area on like the far edge of the map just for nodes and told them to tell their guys and still didn't get the nodes. But, again, there's only so much that you can do, right? Another tip that I would say is if you're your last hard point or the hard point closest to your HQs is like at the top, you should be putting your nodes at the bottom, right? At sector like 2.5, E2.5 or whatever, right? They really shouldn't be going where you expect players to be combing eventually, right? They're just going to be dismantled and stuff, as you know, with like defensive stuff like that. But that's where I use like a request resource node, command emblems, right? But whether people are going to do that or not is a whole nother story, right? But it's just something worth mentioning. You don't want your nodes to go in a sector with your hardpoint. You want the sector the furthest away in the HQ or 2 sectors from the HQ where you find that the enemy team is least likely to go. Okay. On a defensive map. Sorry, these are all over the place, guys. But on a defensive map, you want to. Another thing that I like to do is, you're dropping ammo with the ammo drop to your team on the hard point, and encouraging your recon to use flares, to shoot flares up, frequent flares, and that pairs nicely with defensive arty. A lot of people complain. You'll hear officers, even other commanders, stop wasting my munitions and stuff. And it's like, from my experience, from my book, from my view, arty will be a game changer, or it will save the game in a defensive match. Once you're max nodes, right? I mean, I don't like when I'm not maxed nodes and people are grinding away at my munitions and stuff. That definitely makes me sad, but it is what it is. I would rather take, if like a bombing run's like, 300 munition, and each arty shell is 3, then that's 100 arty shots for one bombing run. I would rather take the 100 arty shots rather than, the bombs. But difference being that you do need to be able to freely drop and be smart about your resources, right? But in summary, in a defensive map, the artillery and recon flares pair very nicely together. Granted that your artillery guy and your recon are both on comms. Of course, communication is always key. Only so much you can do. You can give your team the tools and the encouragement and give them all the information they need to succeed, and it's up to them whether they're going to do it or not, right? Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Making easy notes. So, as for that, that's pretty much it, guys, for now. I mean, this is like the first video that I've made, or that I'm in the process of making, for Commander videos. If you like what you're hearing, if this makes any sense, or if you have any input, I'd love to hear it. Love this game, and I love doing command, and I love tips, and I because it's as complicated or as simple as you can make it, right? And everybody does it different, and there's so many things to consider, and there's so many dynamics and facets about the game that are important to consider and stuff. And I enjoy learning about the game and learning more every day, and making videos like this where I could share what I think. But if you guys want, you can check out any full videos you want on my Twitch page, which is GreenteaRN. Link in the description. And let me know what you think about these tips, and your view or your perspective on them, and hopefully I can get more out to you guys. Alrighty, thanks for watching.